Oh, hi, come on. Welcome. How is everyone today?
Yeah.
Good morning. Well, you are the first people here at Jacob's Well, so welcome. It's pretty amazing. There's been a lot of people working on this incredible journey over the last months, and for some of us, or for some people, it was much longer than that. I think back to what it's compared to, and we're on the ground floor, and if you think of the amazing things, everything from Microsoft to any other amazing accomplishment that's happened over the last 20 years, we really believe that God is working among us and around us and within our community here at Jacob's Well. And actually, what happened was Bethlehem Lutheran Church is where this vision came from. And Bethlehem is located on 41st and Lindale, and it's a great church. And the reason why it's so great is it's not only focused on worshiping God internally, but it also cares enough about its community and its people around us to bring Jesus where Jesus wants to be. And that's out in the streets and out in the community all around us. And that's why we're here today. That's the vision of Jacob's Well, to be real, to be honest, to be relevant to what's going on in today's world. So, look, before we get into that, there are a few rules here at Jacob's Well that we wanted to go through, just to make sure we're all on the same page before we get started. So, first off, bottom line, let's be honest. That's the goal of Jacob's Well, is to be honest. Now, we understand, and that Jacob's Well understands that we don't have all the answers, but we also understand that we all come to the table with a ton of questions. And just because there aren't easy answers doesn't mean that God doesn't have something to say to us. And this environment is an environment where we can just bring ourselves and our questions to the table and be free with those, and just trust that as a community and together, we're just going to be on the spiritual growth journey, all of the community working as one towards the common goal, which is Jesus, and living a life like Jesus lived. And the second thing is, let's expect God to be here. God is going to be all around us. And we just need to expect during this hour that Jesus is going to be here as we're worshiping God. And I think most importantly is being able to embrace that, and then also when we leave here, to be able to leave here and for the next 167 hours during the week, actually take that energy with us throughout the week. I think so often what happens is we come in on Sunday and we worship, or we do whatever on Sunday, and then we go start our week, and then we forget about that. And it's how can we make it just relevant? So when we actually go into our everyday lives, how can that stay with us? How can that energy and enthusiasm stay with us throughout the week? So we just need to expect God to be here, and that through that and through all of us together, that we're going to be able to carry that energy forward. The third thing, let's be comfortable and have fun. Okay, so if there's any sin at all, it's churches that are boring. Do you agree? Okay, so here's the deal. Here at Jacob's Well, have fun, relax, let loose. If you want, you can applaud anytime you want. Stand up, clap your hands, doesn't matter. There are no rules when it comes to the energy and enthusiasm that you want to have for this hour. All those. So that's the number 3 rule, and I think probably one of the most important out of the rules is just be yourself. Feel free, grab some coffee. We've got a great cafe out there. Grab something to eat, bring it in here, not a problem, and just enjoy yourself. Rule number 4. Let's do this together. You look through this, as you're walking up, believe it or not, we are still in process. And we don't have a building. This is our building. So, but doing this together, the bottom line is, it's all about us working together as a community. And it's the people. It's not the building. It's not the walls that are around us. It's not the environment that you see. It's not. All it is everybody here together. And it's God all among us. And that energy that happens when we come together and we commune together. That's what Jacob's Well is. So rule number 4 is let's do this together. Okay. So now that being said, we are under construction, and so things are going to change, and we all like change, right? We are going to be in different locations, and we're going to be in different places, but our hopes is that together we'll just be able to go with the flow, and together be able to adapt to that, and whether it's a field location or Minnehaha location on the 30th, we'll be able, July 30th, we'll be able to do this together. One thing before I move on, you guys all have these Jacob's Well communication cards in your folders or in your Sunday paper. How cool is that? If you wouldn't mind filling this out, it's optional, obviously. During the offering, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be handing the baskets that are underneath the chairs, the first chairs of each row. Go ahead and just put this in there, and then you can just indicate on how you want us to proceed with this. It could just be your first time. It's all of our first times, but go ahead and check it. Or you can put any additional information, and feel free to put any comments on the back, whether you have prayer requests or just additional comments regarding the service. Feel free to put your comments on there as well. Now, we're gonna go into a video, but before we do that, Jacob's Well. Think of it as an airplane, all right? So Jacob's Well is an airplane that took off, it took flight. And I have to admit, I feel like I got on this crazy flight about a month and a half ago. It's been just a tremendous, tremendous flight. And I think that this video does a great job explaining just the Jacob's Well team and how this plane is really taking flight from Bethlehem. And why don't we roll it and go from there?
Some people like to climb mountains. I like to build planes.
Sorry.
This would be the in-process part, still under construction.
Sounded great.
I thought so. I think we have great audio, don't we? All right, here we go. And now we have great visual.
Some people like to climb mountains. I like to build planes in the air.
As we kick off the first Jacob's Well service, three statements just to be said before we do that, if I could skip them. We gather in the presence of God, who created us for good. And of God and Jesus, who took us seriously enough to be one of us and give himself for us. And of God's Spirit, which blows in, through, and around us today.
Good morning. We're here together to talk about the question that is on everyone's mind at some point. And that is this all there is to life? So we're going to be exploring that question together. I know I've dealt with it. So let's stand together and sing. If you know the songs, please sing along. If you don't, that's fine. Go over read it a few times and you'll get the hang of it, I promise. Sing, come now is the time to worship. Now is the time to helpful for me in large groups when I have a chance to get to know the people around me. So what we're going to do right now, if you're comfortable, is just turn to someone near you and shake their hand, introduce yourselves, rub their elbows. If you can get to 5 people, that would be great. But we're just going to spend some time in the community and getting to know one another. So my name is Nate, and I'm leading worship today.
How are you?
Yes, Uncle Junior, I want everything to be perfect for my Dudley special day.
Yeah. Bring my coffee, boy.
Yes, Uncle Vernon. On that wonderful night. How many are there?
36. Counted them myself.
36! Well, last year I had 37!
Yeah, well, some of them are quite a bit bigger than last year.
How big they are! No, this is what we're going to do. It's a very large. We're going to buy you 2 new presents. How's that, Pumpkin?
I hope that doesn't look like your house. Hi, I'm Greg Meyer, pastor here for Jacob's Well. It's wonderful to be here with you as this new church has its beginning. We're new to South Minneapolis as a church, but we are not new to South Minneapolis. I've been here for 15 years, serving as a pastor and a large, established, growing traditional church, and it was time to take it on the road. It's time to find out what it's like to be in the community and reinventing the church on the street. So it is wonderful to see you all here. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of unfamiliar faces. I think those are both good. So great to have you here today. I want to share with you a little bit about this whole idea of there's got to be more. Today, as you may have noticed, is June 25th. I don't know if you realize what that means, but we are now 4 days after the summer solstice, which means what? The days are getting shorter. And we are now headed towards you-know-when, okay? I was talking to a friend just this past week, and she was kind of panicky, actually, because she was realizing how close we are to July 4th. And July 4th for her has always been sort of the mark of the middle of summer. And it was like summer was slipping between her fingers, and she couldn't stop it, like water or something. And, you know, and she hadn't done any really fun summery things that she'd been looking forward to. Probably a lot of us have felt that desperation sometimes. There's just got to be more summer. There's just got to be more vacation days than, you know, that my check stub says I've got between now and December 31st. Dudley, in that Harry Potter video, probably expresses the worst of there's got to be more that happens in all of us. But I think we can all understand it. We have that inside of us. Like, you know, if life could only be like some sort of container, if we poured enough into it, we would have enough. But it doesn't work, does it? Enough, actually, is a very interesting word in our English language. It has properties that are defined differently than probably any other word we have. For instance, the word enough can refer to good things in relationship to other people. meaning other people can have enough of something. Like, boy, Bill sure seems to have enough money. On the other side, enough can refer to bad things in relationship to ourselves. Like, I think I've had enough of road construction for this season. But whether you have ever realized it or not, the word enough is never used as a positive thing in relationship to ourselves. In fact, in the English language, the sentence I'm about to say has never been spoken before. I think I have enough money. Okay, it's not quite that bad, but I think we all get the idea. When it comes to ourselves, we never seem to have enough. The fact is, there are very few people on this earth who don't want more, especially who don't want more money. You may remember it, about a month ago, Star Tribune ran a front page article about the top executive pay bracket here in the state of Minnesota. Packages of tens of millions of dollars. And none of those executives are saying, you know, you're paying me enough. I mean, I frankly have more money than I know what to do with. Let's just drop this pay thing and I'll work for free from now on. No, they're all negotiating for better packages for the future. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally, I don't understand $40 million. You know, $1 million, I think I can kind of get my head around, maybe a little bit more than that, somewhere around $5 million or more in terms of an annual salary. All I know is, like, that's more money than I can imagine, you know, what I would even do with. Now, that said, if there is any mega millionaire here today who's offended by my, you know, my lack of knowledge about the subtleties of these vast amounts of money, would like to give me $20 million so that I could learn them, that's okay. I just, you know, want to go on the record for that. But the point is, if a multi-millionaire can't have enough, what makes you think you would feel like you had enough if you went from $55,000 to $70,000? Or if you traded up from your Jetta to a Passat, that you wouldn't, you know, in a matter of months be thinking it would really be nice to have that Audi. Folks, there is no such thing as enough. You and I are always going to be saying, if I just had a little bit more, then it would be okay. No, this is nothing new. We 21st century Americans maybe have refined this art of the insatiable desire, but we did not invent it. In fact, there's a little book in the Bible, in the Old Testament, called Ecclesiastes, written about 2,600 years ago by the man who was understood to be the wisest person of his generation. And he was totally stuck on this enough issue, so much so that he wrote this. See it up here. He writes, "So I became greater than any of the kings in Jerusalem, any of the kings of Jerusalem before me. And with it all, I remained clear-eyed so that I could evaluate all these things. Anything I wanted, I took. I did not restrain myself from any joy. I even found great pleasure in hard work. This pleasure was indeed my only reward for all my labors. But as I looked at everything I had tried, it was all so useless. A chasing of the wind, and there was nothing really worthwhile anyway." Wow. I think you understand this already. And I think that each of us is also hurting because of it. Because of the suspicion that enough just doesn't work in our lives. But it's on a collision course with the fact that we've already committed our heart, our soul, and our mind to chasing after it, and we really don't know any other way to go about life. Now, God has something to say about this. And it may not be exactly what you expect. In fact, I think it very likely isn't exactly what you expect. It is basically two things. One, God can't help you have enough either. Okay? God can't help you have enough. And two, it isn't about enough in the first place. Okay, so what is God's message about having more, about having enough? Well, many people think that God's advice is learn to do with less. We think God's response to "I can't get enough" problem is to deny ourselves, you know, to somehow kind of wean ourselves from this world so that we don't feel all these desires and things that are around us. We think God's answer to this tyranny of the more is to overcome our humanity, that God wants to make us gods, and that way we won't feel all these desires. That's the trouble with religion, this line of thought goes on to think. It wants to make us something that we're not. And we're not interested. Now, there's another way that people are interested in addressing this. One that we think is a lot more realistic and a lot more people take part in. It's a lot more peaceful, and that's the self-improvement route. I went to BarnesandNoble.com the other day to look at their top books, the bestsellers. And among the top 35, I found these. Everything from Succeed on Your Own Terms to Total Body Makeover. Bob Green's Total Body Makeover. That makeover idea seems to be really big these days. How to Scam-Proof Your Life. Now, you may laugh at all those titles. I might laugh at all these titles. But there is some good stuff there. Self-help, at least when you scam-proof your life against it in the first place, can actually add something to your life. It can make a lot of things a little bit better for yourself. But here's what's going on behind that self-improvement, that self-help idea. It's presuming to be honest with the fact that we are human, and isn't trying to make us drum the reality of life out of the way we live. It just wants to fix us, all right? That's the idea that operates behind it, and we think that's okay. But it's wrong. That isn't what's going on here. If you hear anything that I have to share with you today, I'd like you to pick up on two things, and this is the first one right now. And that is that God doesn't expect you to leave your humanity behind and become a God, all right? God does not expect that of you. And self-help, on the other hand, isn't honest with your humanity. In fact, it's really the other way around. Self-help is a tyrant, trying to make you something that you don't want to be, something that you can't become. And it is God who understands what it means to be human and loves you just the way you are. Let me explain that a little bit. The book of Genesis is the very first book in the Bible. It starts out by talking about how the world was formed. Okay? Just starts, we've got to be clear that that book is not intended to be a scientific telling of how creation happened, nor is it meant to be detailed in history like we do it. No, people that have tried to take our 21st century notions of history or science and apply it to these ancient writings are just barking up the wrong tree. I mean, that's just creating problems for themselves. But what is happening in those first chapters, talking about how the world was put together, is giving us a look at God's heart and how God intended creation to be, and what God wanted God's relationship to creation to be all about. It's a message of what God intended for us, and it is not that we were created to be gods, angels, or something like that, and somehow we messed it up, and now it's our job to get back up to God's level. No, God created us to be, according to Genesis, just who we are, people. Here we have this from Genesis chapter 2. Would you read this along with me? Then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground, and breathed in his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. Now, there is nothing divine about that. Man is Adam, made from the ground, Adamah. Nothing glamorous. We were not made from clouds and sunshine, but the stuff of this world, the simplest stuff of this world, the dirtiest stuff of this world. We are, in God's heart, part of this world. Humanness, not being miniature gods, is not just evident from the story that describes how we were made. It also comes from the story that tells us how we were tempted to rebel against God. There we find, how were we tempted? Well, we think, tempted to eat an apple. Yeah, well, there actually wasn't an apple in the Bible. That was the point of it. We were tempted to do something else, to take God's place. The serpent, who personifies the power of evil, comes, so you're not supposed to eat of that tree. And Eve says, well, no, we're just not supposed to eat of this tree in the middle of the garden, because God says if we do, we're going to die. And the devil, Satan, the serpent, says, you surely will not die. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. He says, you can do this. You will be like God. If you follow this diet and lose those pounds, you're going to be the person you always hoped you could be. If you do these workouts, you're going to have those abs of steel. If you practice these principles at work, you're going to climb the ladder of corporate success. If you do these basic things every day, you will no longer be troubled with all those problems in your relationships. Does that sound familiar? If you can do that, you will be like God. You see, it wasn't in the design, but in our temptation that we are being asked to be like God. To try to drum out our humanity is a perversion of what it means to be created by God and to live in this world. And God knows that. And God says, you know, I love you just for who you are, to keep trying to do that. Now, I'm not trying to beat up on self-help books, okay? There's a lot of good stuff there. I have learned a lot from them. They've been very helpful to me in many ways. But they have a premise behind them, whether it's intended or not, that we're able to fix our way out of our problems. This is just a different version of more, and it's really called better. And to go down that path, to rid ourselves of the things that attract us to those books in the first place, is to take us down that fundamental dead-end road. And no matter how much we try to tweak ourselves that way, we realize that we cannot be like God. So don't give God a bum rap just because you've never quite understood what Jesus came on this earth to help us to understand. And that is that God wants to lead you into your humanity, not away from it. You were created human, and God loves you for that. And a God like that is worth getting to know. I think you got something that'll help us understand that. Take it away.
I want to teach you a chorus before we get started. It goes like this. We're going to sing it once, and then if you feel comfortable, you can sing along. Into marvelous light out of darkness, out of shame. By the cross, you are the truth, you are the light, you are the way. Into marvelous light out of darkness.